What's up, everybody? This is Gerard. I'm just doing a quick review slash conclusion of my Technologies Dilemma. Sorry it's super late from the Thursday requirement of being posted so people can talk about it. I definitely thought this was an assignment, like due on Sunday, and then that was it. I did not know it was a let's talk about it kind of a thing. So I apologize for that. Another caveat here is I also read that as pick three different issues and a subcategory from each, not one issue and three subcategories from that. So I have three issues with one subcategory from each. So that will also probably give me a ding. I'm sorry, I'm a hot mess this week. But either way, they're all pretty good subcategories. I just wanted to go through them real quick with you and then give you a quick conclusion. So my first one was gamers and game developers are um, dominantly male. That is a typo. My proposition for this one was: should there be a societal government push for more gamers slash game developers to be female? In other words, should there be a forced injection of female presence in the game industry? So we'll hit it down. Um, so just quick summary. I'm not going to read this word for word. I'll let you do it. But I chose this issue as it says here because um, the game industry in general, regardless of the force that's hired in it, has spiked, dropped a couple of times. When it was first created, it went up, and then game quality went down, and then it dropped, and then it resurfaced, and then I think we're almost in a lull right now with the types of games. And then I think the indie games are going to pop it back up. I think VR is a potential to do wonderful things as well, but I wanted to really just emphasize and be like, the female presence has been in the game development in small quantities since the beginning of game development. Centipede, one of the really good early games, was designed by a woman and created by a woman. I thought that was really interesting. That was a good game. Yeah, I know that's fun. Like Whale, there, Portal, and some of its games are also um, very female design heavy and all that stuff. So there's definitely stuff there that you can do. Um, that was just as far as the gamer girl force, there's not really a bunch of, I would say, competitive players for female gamers, but girls like video games just as much as guys. I think a lot of the games that people perceive as being very male dominant, because there's violence in them, or because there's destruction, or just kind of a theme of male presence there. Like I can tell you right now, Legend of Zelda, that's got uh, male hero, female support character, sometimes primary. She's the hero in some of them. And I can tell you, male and female both love that one, but a lot of people say that's geared towards men. Um, Call of Duty, obviously, that's a very militaristic style game. There's a lot of men in military stuff and whatnot, but there's also females, and some females really like to just go in there and light up people. So I don't know how statistically accurate some of the resources are currently with taking a census on female gamers versus male gamers, but I feel like there's more women and growing in numbers with the game industry and female gamers in general and developers. Um, so some of just the status entities here for me: male slash female developer workforce, they'd be affected as far as the ratios, and all that random stuff going on in there. I don't want to say pay scale, but experience would definitely be one, which would then affect pay scale. This time frame of the game development, would this increase or decrease? I work in a very female-dominated workforce, and I'm gonna probably catch flack for this, but a lot of the nurses, you can tell the difference when there are multiple male workers on the floor because things get done a little bit more efficiently and with a little less, I don't want to say drama, but drama. As opposed to when I'm by myself and the rest are all females, there tends to be a lot more drama and a lot more unnecessary um, difficulties added to the day. Um, so the game industry just as a whole, but specifically the designs of the games, um, what's in them, who's the main characters, how they're purposely built, would be affected if we had more female integration into the development workforce. I think it would be a different lens, it'd just be unique to see what would happen through that lens. Um, Income from games, it would be interesting because I think naturally, if we had more female developers, that they would try and change the game to target more female audiences, which would affect, I think, the income from games. I also think they would affect multiple age ranges, just because of the natural nurturing nature of most females. But I think it would be an interesting um, side effect of what would happen to game income. Demand of games created. This is like, are they geared? Are we gonna have like unicorn games now, or are we gonna have unicorns and tank games? Or unicorns just in general. There'd be a lot of unicorns. But all joking aside, like the demands of what games would be created might be drastically different. So we'll just continue. So these are some of the facts that I found so that you can see. There's more detailed in the references, so check those out as well. I found this one very interesting. Diversity and want of females in the industry is desired by 71.1% of the current industry. So that means there's a lot of people saying we want females, women inside of this industry. Um, just some more statistics of developers and then gamers that are female. Um, yeah, so just check them out. It's all good. The next one I did was esports and scholarships. Um, should colleges treat esport programs as traditional sports programs? And the answer is actually surprising. They already do. So just a quick summary overview is esports are already matching, catching up, or passing the traditional sports, football, baseball, that kind of a deal. I know that the League of Legends Grand Tournament, I think it was 2 years ago, used the same venue for the Olympics, for the opening day Olympics, and they had a couple thousand more people present in attendance than the Olympics did, which is interesting to me. It just shows on how widely it's growing, and that's an international stage. So, um, should I asked the reason is why how will scholarships and grants and recruitment for all this affect colleges with esports? Can anybody join? Are they intramurals? Are they varsity? A lot of the focus is turning the varsity teams that currently are at colleges and turn them into pro for a very viable career. Some of these people make six figures in the pro circuits. You can make a couple thousand for sure in beginner, intermediate, and novice circuits. So it's just really interesting to me on um, this could how this is potentially affecting a new market and a new avenue for colleges. I don't know what it would do for economic stability for tuitions and funding for both the college and the student. Would this go up? Is this, if obviously if you flood the teams that are esports and give everybody tuition, support or some sort of a scholarship or a grant, then they're gonna lose a lot of money because there's a lot of gamers out there, especially people that think they're good. Look at that stadium; it's crazy. I think that is in China, but that's just insane. Look at that; that's insane. Um, So, status entities that get affected: colleges, obviously, students, career paths, the game industry in terms of games developed. You see a lot of games that are developed towards competitive play, um, that are very quick, fun, and have the ability to um, access these venues and circuits. Game society, if, as you can tell here, there is a huge range of professional teams for Counter Strike, League of Legends. They have online card playing. I know the new Magic Arena is a huge one that's starting to get into esports and have its own tournaments. And people are starting to bring out the swag of all these different teams. Cloud9, um, it's one of my own favorites. TPA, the Taipei Assassins, which is a China team. You know, there's so many I can't even. Fnatic, that's another one. And some of these teams spill over into different games. Some of them are exclusive to other games, but I think the society as a whole would just it's a very drastically developing community. Economic effects. This would be for jobs as income. Obviously people want to go pro and have this as a main source of income and career. The jobs created, this would have an economic effect. So now we have these gigantic productions and venues that are hosting these things. We have commentators, you have um, cameramen, you have coaches for a video game. So somebody can yell at you behind you saying you're doing it wrong. Meanwhile, they can't play the game. But just all these other jobs, hosts. It's just kind of crazy. Um, and then obviously again the college tuitions. But here are all the little um, bullet points of just info that we found. I found this one to be absolutely insane. Um, and just kind of another thing to affect is school demands. Esports takes about 12 hours a day for 5 to 6 days a week, not leaving much time for school. And that's for the people who are pros. Again, a lot of people don't meet this and become pros, but if you're trying to become this, that's insane. That's crazy. Um, what is next? Oh, next is my favorite. It is dealing with um, social media and the clinical world. I said for the proposition, it is dangerous having medical information exchanged via social media without professional guidance. Here you can see my picture of WebMD, and the reason I say this is just because, again, being in the medical field, you see a lot of people socially diagnose themselves, their children, others. Kind of, you know, you're trying to trump somebody who has trained medically, either for numerous years of experience or with a lot more of an educational background than you, with social media and people saying if your rash is kind of red and fuzzy, you probably have poison ivy, MRSA, or basically listing off 8 different things that you have no clue what to do, and then giving you advice on how to fix it. So that in itself reminds me of just enough, you know, uh, just enough information to be dangerous, not enough to be effective. And to me, it's almost like knowing how to pull the trigger on a gun. Just enough to be dangerous, not enough on how to be safe with it. If you knew nothing else on how to hold a weapon. Um, on the bright side of it, there is also positives to the social media with the clinical side. Everything's at your fingertips as far as a physician. You can do research. You can look up other things. You post research. You can keep in contact with your patients correctly. Um, you can have multiple avenues to improve your practice. There's really cool sites now that can be brought up inside the actual patient room, and you can see like X-rays and all that coolness. But um, I think personally, and this is me again, social media should be used for support in the medical field by testimonies, but not in place of professional skill of a doctor. So, um, here are the status entities again that get affected: medical professionals, patients, HIPAA, which is basically patient protected info, because that can be leaked unwantedly through a social media outlet, especially if you're talking about somebody else that isn't you, or unintentionally leaking your own HIPAA to people without knowing the repercussions of it. Um, Other things that get affected are medical care centers, hospitals, urgent cares, family practices. Now, this is a liability or a factor that they have to identify that you could have potentially self diagnosed and treated yourself before coming in and even giving them a chance. So now they have to be aware of that just in case things conflict with their process. But here are the sources. Just to give a quick view for this one, though, um, I think that my conclusion is I think that um, it shouldn't be forcibly injected, but I do think that females should make a bigger presence in game development and just gaming in general. I think it's a nice aspect that has potential for good changes. It also has the potential for bad changes, as does everything else. But I think it'll be more of a positive um, interaction in the end. Um, Esports, I think that if you treat esports as a tradition, I think they should be treated as a traditional sport. And that meaning like there's only a certain amount of room for teams. You need to meet a set requirement of skills, have um, a set standard that they have to meet in the collegiate level as well. And but other than that, I think there's no problem, giving out scholarships for all that. It's just the same as a sport. It's just on a computer instead. But as with a sport, you can overdo it. As with a game, you can overdo it. Um, and then the last thing I think is for the WebMD, um, or just the web and social media, is once again just you know use it as a testimony, but be sure you're not violating any HIPAA laws when you do it. Just for protection of yourself, protection of somebody you're talking about, protection of an institute that may have been involved, and just you should honestly just seek professional help and trust the docs and what they're doing. Don't try and take matters into your own hand, even if it's a financial burden. Still seek out correct forms of help. All right, everybody, thank you for that. That is all I got. So, on that note, have a good night.